Warning: working near open fuel sources is an imminent fire and health hazard. Do not attempt working with fuels unless using proper precautions, securing safe conditions, and using proper techniques. In 2013, I posted what has become a very popular video about how to remove and replace a fuel pump of the 2002 Thunderbird and its close cousin, the Lincoln LS. These cars are now getting long in the tooth and will likely be needing fuel pump replacement or service. This year, late 2022, I am for the third time removing the fuel pump. This time, it is my own fault. The car, in storage for 2 years, suffered its fuel turning to a tea-colored, nearly inflammable, foul-smelling broth. How I let it go to this stage is a story, but not today's story. The fuel ring that holds the fuel pump and the maddening but necessary sealing gasket in place has twice caused me great consternation. Its factory fit is incredibly tight, making its removal and especially reinstallation one to generate foul language and a need to throw something. But before embarking on a third journey into the hole that houses this dreaded apparatus, I decided I would address the ring's failures. Yes, I struggled as usual in removing the fuel pump. Now, why did I remove the fuel pump? At first, I removed the fuel filter located under the left front wheel well liner and fitted it with a hose into a bucket. With the fuel pump still secured, using a couple of female pin connectors fitted to the black ground and green and yellow striped positive wire of the disconnected fuel pump electrical plug, a 12-volt source can run the fuel pump continuously to empty the majority of the tank. I stopped when lots of air began to show up in the discharge, but there was still a lot of fuel coming through as well. Since the pump is cooled by fuel, I thought further operation could be damaging to the pump. I continued to remove the pump because diluting fresh fuel, even with the small amount of degraded fuel still in the tank, could possibly cause the precipitation of the ethanol from the fresh fuel. That precipitate does not burn. With the pump out, I was able to use my vacuum pot to suck from the bottom of the tank a quart of unusable liquid nightmare. Using the vacuum pot on the crossover line, I was able to remove another quart. The T-Bird tank is a saddlebag with two very large sumps serviced by a crossover pump. Then I turned the vacuum to the engine feed line to suck the remains of fuel from it. To evacuate the fuel rail, the vacuum is connected to the engine side at the filter. Opening the Schrader valve on the fuel rail facilitates scavenging this line. Now, to address the ring of terror. I used a Dremel with a cutting tool to bevel the outside lip from the thread to the bottom of the ring, cutting off 1/8 to 3/16 inches of material. Then, with the same tool, skimming a 1/16 from the top and both sides for the first full rotation of the triangular thread. Not to stop there, the original thread, ended beveled upward, is recut downward to enhance engaging the tank's mating thread. With these alterations and a little grease, the ring now spins easily onto the tank. Next, I mark the beginning of the thread on top of the ring. With a finger, you can locate the beginning of the thread on the tank and note that position. My tank's thread begins directly to the rear of the car. With these positions lined up, blindly rotating the ring to locate the engagement point is eliminated. As a look to the future, I drill a 13/32 hole in the pump's cover plate and run a 7/1611 tap through that hole, using a 7/1611 rubber bolt to seal it. Now, if the tank needs evacuated for any reason, the whole fuel pump removal is bypassed. Just remove the rubber bolt and insert a hose. The next issue I address is the flimsy rubber gasket that tends to fall off and into the tank during assembly. The reshaping of the ring greatly helps to prevent disturbing the gasket's positioning, but to assure no slippage, I spray the top of the gasket with a general purpose adhesive. Then, spraying the same glue on a piece of cardboard, I transfer some with a fingertip to maybe 6 positions around the bottom side of the fuel pump cover plate. In a few minutes, when the glue appears dry, glue side up, the gasket can be stretched over the cover and pressed into place to be held firmly by the contacting glue spots. This done, the cover plate can be positioned, the ring worked into position, and its threads aligned with the tank. The ring now slips easily over the plate, engages the threads, and spins on with easy rotation using the special tool for final tightening, without dislodging the gasket. The assembly process is reduced to seconds. Why I did not do this 11 years ago is beyond my comprehension. To finish the job, only the fuel lines need primed. With the pump fully reconnected, put a hose to a bucket back onto the feed line at the filter. Turn the key on and off several times as the pump will only run for a second. When the fuel appears, reconnect the filter. At the fuel rail, using a fuel pressure testing line connected to the Schrader valve with its bypass open and in a tray, again turn the key on and off until fuel shows. Remove the temporary lines and the hard part is done. My bird started with the first crank.